a slight tangent on that.
This is far too much of a tangent. Just a brief interruption.
Can I also say one more thing on this?
But we also need to impose some rules. Like, we can't just have 20-minute tangents over a text.
Come on. That's just refusal to consider the circumstances. I'm not going to entertain that, Joe.
This conversation is not a good one, I think. Do we argue much?
No, we keep them inside.
Fester.
See, I thought this was a ridiculous text until I read the top three, and then I thought, you know what? I'd actually debate that with you. It is an interesting... Sorry, it's not an interesting question, but...
Let's make that clear.
I love the sound of a snooker referee counting up the score.
Here we go again. They said it couldn't be done. 5 in a row, everybody. A Slight Tangent is coming at you for a 5th time in a row. That is where standards have plummeted to. Michael McCarthy is here alongside me. Hello, Michael.
Kerry couldn't do it. Kilkenny couldn't do it. Will we get to 7 and beat the Dubs?
Oof. Will O'Callaghan, hello.
Evening, lads.
And Arthur O'D, hello.
Hi, Joe.
What's going on, everybody? This is the slot where the OTB FM PM team chat through whatever tends to arise, and A Slight Tangent at offtheball.com is a helpful crutch on which we can rely in lieu of production meetings, which we said we were going to do.
Yeah, well, we said it. We say it every week.
And they're not happening with the same intensity I'd hoped for. Today's one lasted 4 minutes.
Yeah, there was a lot of vigour in that 4 minutes, though.
There was.
A lot was done.
We've got nothing. What are we going to do?
We don't have much time because the show's on.
Okay, let's get straight into it then, and we'll find our way. So, first email is from Sheelan Strain, who says, Joe et al. Long time, first time. Let's get straight to it. I like that start. Why are people from Kerry incapable of saying their own players' names correctly? I thought it was an intriguing first line. Is there a collective blind spot to the letter O in Sean O'Shea's name? Are the O'Shea brothers actually just the Sheas? Worse still, the main culprits are Mark and Thomas. Shawnee Shea this, Aidan Shea that, Killian Connor the other. FFS lads, have they no shame? And another thing, why does Jack O'Connor talk like the game he's just watched was a hypothetical? We wouldn't be happy with that performance. Anyway, love the show.
Oh, he's not alone in that one now, Joe. A lot of managers do that.
The Shays. I don't know.
Dig a Kerry. Where's Sheelan from?
Don't know.
Never heard that name before.
Doesn't say. Sheelan Strain.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fake name, actually.
Sheelan Strain.
Yeah, think Sheelan's done us there.
Shawnee Shea.
Aidan Shea.
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear it now that you say it.
Yeah. Is it just for Kerry people?
I don't know. I think we give that email short shrift.
I've never heard anyone say Killian Connor.
No,
that's never been said.
Shawnee Shea now, yeah.
They do say Aidan Shea, but he's half Kerry, so I think they feel like they're justified in dropping the O there.
Yeah. I don't know. I've nothing more to say about it. We'll press on.
Intriguing. Keep an ear out for it,
It's
folks.
definitely not just him, though. A lot of GA managers do that.
What?
The old classic, we wouldn't be happy with how we played today.
It's an Irishism, isn't it? Though?
A little bit, yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. So we have an email in from New Zealand. The emailer starts with, "Hi, Dr. OD and the rest of you."
Really? Ooh. Shots fired.
Okay.
Oh, possibly not. How do you know? How do you know that Arthur's not his favourite one?
Oh, he could very well be, but you know,
he may well be. Are you a doctor? Yeah.
You know I am. Yeah. Like not
PhD,
a medical man.
No, I'm not fully au fait with how that world
from the humanities,
works.
But
we only call it fake when we're talking to Arthur. Of course, any guest that we have on the show, like 5 minutes ago, very much real doctor.
Would you have doctor on any of your identifications?
No. It is funny. I'm going away soon, and I was having to sign in or log in for a flight, and the option did come up. It's like, I was like, no, don't do it there.
Is there a doctor on the plane?
That's not what they want. We know there is. That's not what they want. No, I am.
Yeah. So everybody who completes a PhD is a doctor.
Yeah, I think so. You're a doctor of something. So I think mine's technically doctor of philosophy. Fell under. Didn't do philosophy. It's not that, but it's just a broader scheme of things. But that's it.
And can we read your PhD anywhere?
Yeah, it's online.
How might we find it?
If you want to look up Arthur James O'D, it'll be called Older Than Younger Now. Bob Dylan. That'll get you there. You'll find it.
I didn't know it was called that.
Which institution was it in, Arthur?
Yeah, sorry.
Which institution was it?
DCU.
And what would be the gist?
give us the
killing time, hurry. I'll get it open.
Give
I'll
us
read
the front page.
I'll read the abstract to you.
It is the elevator pitch.
No.
What would Joe put on it if he was writing? If you knew him then, he'd write it for the front of the book.
I don't know. You'll have to go and read it. It's been a while now.
I have to go.
Dr. O'D pierces the consciousness of Dylan like nobody else.
No.
Why not? That's a nice one.
He's already got it.
That's a dust cover for you.
It doesn't matter what the book is.
That'd sell.
Yeah, it's funny what the thing's trying to sell. It's hard trying to sell it. You'd have to change the good bit. It's hardly something people do, I suppose. I think sometimes it can be like in a postdoctoral thing where you go on and do a bit more work, but you'd have to change a lot if you were selling it for trade, as they call it.
Yeah.
It's just too much. It's not written in a kind of style that you would be necessarily the most enjoyable to read.
Right.
Like it has to be very. Like, not that you necessarily want too flowery anything, but you really can't go too eloquent with anything. You're kind of
Like a sober.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway,
I didn't know you were a doctor of philosophy.
Well, that's what it falls under. I presume there's other music, everything. You know what I mean? But that's what that fell under. Yeah.
Yeah. And why Dylan, by the way?
Why not? True. It's what I was into, and it was opened up in front of me. So.
And did you love Dylan more or less by the end of it?
I mean, greater appreciation.
Okay.
Yeah, still enjoy it immensely.
what would you say you got more into, Bob Dylan or Limerick? In the process,
Bob Dylan, it's incomparable. It's incomparable the amount of things you have to go through for it. It's just like, I remember moving house one of the times before, counting out the books. It's upwards of 30, 40 plus. Like,
books on Bob Dylan.
yeah, and like, so a lot of them are, like, without being too disparaging, like, a lot of them are useless. But you have to read them. You have to do everything. You know what I mean? But a lot of it's kind of like, because then with someone like that, there's the whole artistic side of what they're doing, but then there's also on the other side of that the whole celebrity side of it. And a lot of the celebrity stuff would be quite trashy, but you still can't completely overlook it because it does ultimately bleed back into what's going on.
Are we talking Hello Magazine kind of trashy about Bob?
Yeah, you would, yeah. Like, over the course of 60 years.
Can we maybe, I don't know, around Christmas time or a quiet spell in the year, chat with you some evening about Dylan?
Yeah. If you give me some prep time.
You're a doctor on Dylan.
No, I know, but it depends what you want to talk about. You don't want to come in half-cocked.
Well, that is true. I mean, you wouldn't know it from the first 8 minutes of a slight time.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
We would never do that. No. Anyway, hi Dr. O'D and the rest of you. LTFT, 2 questions. I was intrigued last week when there was immediate dismissal, which... guilty, there was immediate dismissal of the Netflix Tour de France Unchained documentary as, quote, we are inundated with these things now, end quote, as an excuse, rather than actually having thoughts on it. For context, I would call myself a casual golf observer rather than a fan, but I did take the time to watch a bit of the Netflix series. However, I didn't find it exceptionally compelling, not nearly to the level of Drive to Survive or this Tour de France version. I think the reason probably being there is no actual physical danger to the participants involved in golf. The Tour de France version highlights the speeds, e.g. episode 1 showing the descent down a mountain of a rider at 105 kilometres per hour and road conditions involved with the associated danger, major crashes, major injuries, etc., making it a much more compelling show, in my opinion. Disclaimer, I would consider myself a cycling fan, but would be really interested in the thoughts of cycling observers rather than fans. That was his first question. I'll get to question 2 in a moment.
Part one, Joe, is that we had general fatigue about sports documentaries. I don't think we were dismissing it because it was cycling last week.
He's definitely wrong on that. Like, we didn't dismiss it as in to say, like, you know, that's our review, we don't want to watch it. It was we just didn't have time to watch as such. We got a lot of good reviews for it.
Someone had asked us if we had watched it. That was how it came.
And it was just a throwaway text, I think, yeah.
We didn't present it as here's our review.
Exactly.
Unchained.
Loads of messages, actually, about it since we did talk about it last week, and all, like, very, very, this is good, this is one worth watching. So, look, to be honest, if it comes up at a side tangent, we don't know about it, you tell us about it. You know, at least it's changed my mind now that I am willing to check it out. I haven't yet, but there's been a lot on.
I got a DM where they said it's as good as the first season of Drive to Survive, which was obviously critically acclaimed, and that was enough for sale that I've downloaded on my phone. I haven't actually watched it yet, but I have the first 3 episodes downloaded to watch at some point.
You watch Netflix on your phone?
Sometimes, yeah, or the iPad, in bed mainly, rather than, say, being out on the TV. Depends.
Second question from New Zealand, Donal in New Zealand here. Secondly, and not related in any way, what happens in the ad breaks when you're interviewing people? Do you have a chat with them, go for a tea break, etc.? I'm particularly thinking of tricky, feisty interviews as recent examples.
Go for a tea break. How long do you think the ads are?
When the ads roll, is it awkward silence or is it a discussion about what you're going to talk about post ad break? Love the show. Daily listener from the future. Donal.
Why did he single me out?
He's just a fan of you.
Neither of these questions. I can answer the second one, and the first one.
Do you talk to people in the ads? If you don't know them well, like obviously if you're here with like Dan or whatever, you'll be having a chat. But
Keys and Gray, I try to put them at ease.
Because I've been on the other side of that. I've been in radio studios where I'm sitting there in like stony silence, and the first time the presenter talks to you is when the red light comes on.
Ah, no.
Oh yeah, it happens more than you think.
Now, if somebody was very busy and they were frantically trying to get on top of something, but you might turn.
That's always the reason. It's not rudeness, but it's very awkward sitting there waiting. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know. There's no small talk. There's no kind of like, and then suddenly, do you know what the difference is? If me and you were talking now, when you come on and it feels like a normal conversation, there's a trigger in your brain when you haven't had any contact with someone and they've been kind of like not looking at you, and then suddenly, hey Mick, how are you doing? You well? You start to feel like you're acting. A little bit now. It wears away, but it's actually, I think, a very important thing to sort of talk to someone a little bit during the ad break or before the interview. I think is a more relevant thing. We don't really have too many times that we'll be sitting there during a live interview in an ad break with the same guest there.
I would have thought it's just good manners to welcome someone in and have a certain amount of small talk, no matter how experienced or inexperienced they are.
And look, most people do try to do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a few people in my head and they wouldn't do it all the time or anything like it. It's for the reasons that Joe suggests. Like,
on the TV
during the ad breaks.
Yeah, it's a bit more because it's always kind of live. I suppose you're always just there,
just chatting during the game the whole time anyway. And then the ad breaks are fairly frantic because what piece of analysis will we do? It's a fairly rushed.
Yeah, it's
3 or 4 minutes before a halftime analysis is frantic. Who's doing what? We're going to have to drop that. We don't have enough time. So it's a bit full on.
How many people are involved in that beyond just the 4 on screen?
Quite a few. The producer, the director, so that he or she knows what we're playing and when. The people cutting it. TV is very, it's
quite interesting though, because it very ever rarely goes wrong. Like you know the way, like in that type of dynamic, like you tend to notice when something goes wrong.
Yeah, it should go wrong more actually.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know there was that many people on board with it.
Yeah, that's the glory and the frustration in TV is you need so many people in sync, so it doesn't make it very adaptable.
Okay.
But it can be enjoyable if it's going well.
I would think the scenario that was mentioned about the idea that an interview gets a bit hot and heavy and then it's going to a break and then you have to sit there with them, I would say that happens very, very rarely.
Yeah. Like
usually that's towards the end of an interview if it's going to turn out that way.
Yeah, you don't tend to go hard and heavy early because you don't want the interview to end. So, but I don't know. Yeah, it's. I
can only ever think of one where I was interviewed that got a bit heated and it had to go to the news because it had already leaked over the top of the hour, and that was weird because you're sitting there with them for 3 minutes after there's been a back and forth.
Who was that?
But generally that's towards the end of an interview. It was a politician a good few years ago.
Politician.
And so then
one of your many former lives.
Yeah, indeed. In that case, you see, I don't really mind it either because a politician expects to be challenged and it's part of it.
The game.
But I think if you had a standard guest in and you had a tremendous row and then went, just going to throw to a break, see you in 4 minutes, that would be weird.
Yeah, I have found generally there's a degree afterwards of, look, just doing our job.
Yeah.
Do you ever apologise?
Not apologise, but
explain yourself.
Have you ever had a Joe where like a standard guest it goes horrifically wrong and it gets really heated?
No.
Can't think of too many.
I don't think so.
You could have an example for that.
I don't think so. Hey Joe and the Jets, long time, first time. I know
Joe and the Jets.
You're not a fan of longer emails, so I'll keep this one brief. Basically, I'm no longer sure I can keep on supporting Rory McIlroy. I've rarely been as disappointed as I have been on Sunday night or on watching him come so close yet again to a major win, only for some entirely unheralded outsider to come along and beat him. I know it's sport, I know it's meritocracy, but it doesn't feel right. I want nothing but the best for him. It's like sounding like an Adele song now. And though I sound like a scorned lover here, it's just so painful watching him not fulfill what we all know he should be achieving, which is the great frustration. Anyway, more of a statement than a question, I guess. But am I alone here? All the best, Craig in Waterford. I would not think so. Everybody stayed up to watch it, I think, did they?
Yeah.
You two did. I didn't think you would, Dr. O'D.
I wasn't planning on it. I kind of set myself a thing that if it gets to a point, I think anywhere after the 9th, after Clark passed the 9th, if he went out any further than 2, I was like, I'll leave it there. And then he just got right back in, and it's like, oh my God, I couldn't leave it then. I was gutted as well. Absolutely gutted. I don't have that much skin in that game, but like, it's just you want him so bad to do it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Lots of people don't. I think he's a very divisive figure.
Not that many anymore, I don't think.
Okay.
Well, I look, I could be wrong about that, and I'm just going with my anecdotal evidence, but I felt like he had universal support.
Oh no.
Come Sunday, anyway.
I think there's like I think the same people who want Stephen Kenny to not do well are the same people who tweet me when Rory doesn't do well.
There are people reveling in it.
Do we have to worry about what they say?
No.
Do you know, I just think there's a negativity out there that's like attention seeking and weird. Now that's not the only reason.
I think there's a certain relish on the part of many people where there's a degree of, this guy gets all the media attention, all the media love. Push comes to shove, he's a bottler. Yeah, that's like, there's a relish in that kind of it.
Yeah. Is he a bottler though?
You see, are you always a bottler? Can you win and still be a bottler?
Did he bottle it on Sunday? It was a weird round.
Like, round. I don't think he
you bottle it more with the long clubs than you do with the putter, don't you? Like he missed 2 putts that he absolutely should have got. That's normal over the course of that kind of round, and nothing dropped from him.
Yeah.
Isn't that fair to say?
It is. And Saturday was a very similar theme. He was 42nd in putting overall in the competition. Just can't win a competition 42nd. It shows how good he was tee to green. I mean, he struck the ball as beautifully in a major as he has in a very long time, including on Sunday. I mean, the reason there is such media attention on him is because he can do things that most other players can't, not least with the long irons. Like even on the 11th commentary, we're saying the par 3 11th, 295 yards. Will he hold this one against the wind, or will he draw it in?
Yeah.
Bit of danger to the right if he tries to draw it in. And he just stood up, drew it in beautifully. Andrew Coulthard was saying, a 4-iron, 295 yards. And again, like on every other hole, bar about 2 of them, he was within 25 feet. So it was like, you have a 15% chance of making this putt in isolation. And he didn't make any of them. And it was the same on Saturday. He didn't make any of them. And individually, none of them were super makeable. His proximity to the hole wasn't great, but it's a tough golf course. And where I hate the term bottler, like he's Rory McIlroy, he's won 4 majors, he's done extraordinary things under pressure. But the 14th, where he didn't find the fairway, the par 5, and then he, from 125 yards, he stuck it into the face of that bunker. And then he got the unbelievable break of a drop, took the drop, and it was a very bad chip, and then he missed the putt from 9 feet for par. And by contrast, you know, when the tournament is there to be won, like this is it, you have to win it. Wyndham Clark found the fairway on the same hole and hit his 279 yards and basically gave himself the comfort blanket of being able to make bogey and still win the tournament. Like, call him a bottler if you want. I think that's just a bit crude and just too harsh. But like, there is a degree of, you were in control in many ways for a lot of the day. It was there to be won on that hole, the 1 birdie chance in the back 9, and you made 3 mistakes on it. The drive, the layup, the chip, the putt. Actually, that's 4 mistakes. I don't know what that is, but it's a problem for him. And it was very interesting that a journalist who works for No Laying Up was standing near McIlroy at the scoring tent, and he overheard Rory turn to his manager Sean and say, St Andrews all over again. And what a grim thing that is. Like, the level of scar tissue is building on more scar tissue and more scar tissue, and St Andrews was that. He couldn't hold a putt all day. He had a lot of greens, couldn't hold a putt. I don't know what he is. It was a confusing tournament, and he's having a confusing decade.
Your point on the 14th is well made, right? But for the rest of it, do you know, you're saying like Rory can do things that nobody else can do. It was one of those things that was feck all used to him at the weekend, because he was able to get within 30 feet on holes that nobody else could get within 60.
Yeah.
Right? But you can still 2-putt from 60 feet and you're unlikely to hold a 30-footer.
Yeah.
And that happened, I'd say, 8 times on Sunday. So it was like he was doing these magic, but he wasn't missing, he wasn't doing anything wrong to come out with the same score as Scheffler, as Clark and as the other boys.
Yeah.
Like, you know, on the same hole. That was the problem, you know. They were getting up and down well.
Yeah.
But Rory was just missing his birdie putt from 30, and that happens so often that it's hard to say that it was anything to do with mentality or anything like that. Now the 14th, I agree. I think that was his first bad drive he hit all day.
The 4-footer on 8.
Yes. But he's always going to miss a putt like that, though, isn't he, over the course of a day? Like, yeah. Like, the idea that he wouldn't have any mistakes either, you know, I do think that third shot in 14 was, I think he was saying, I need a birdie on this hole, and if he had that, an extra, you know, however many inches it needed to clear the bunker, then it was probably going to be perfect.
It was a very tin cup explanation, whereby he said he was between clubs and he decided to go with the long, the gap wedge as opposed to sand wedge, just a 3/4 shot. And he said, it was the right shot and it was the right club. I just hit it at the wrong time. There was a gust of wind at its strongest then. I should have waited the 15-20 seconds for it to settle, and then if I hit that shot, perfect.
Yeah.
These are the grim fine margins he has to stew on now.
That's what I mean. I just wonder is like that we could just like, he's a bottler, or these conversations about like teams winning and losing by a point, and sometimes we can just declare something so one side or the other based on such small margins in sport.
There is akin to Stephen Kenny, and I guess we should talk Kenny this week as well. Again, in isolation, that weekend, absolutely. St Andrews in isolation, absolutely. The last 10 years, add it all up, there's a bit of a trend, is the thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Going to your initial point about his popularity and everything like that, like I don't stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning to watch sporting events anymore. I don't really care. It just doesn't happen. I was up again at 6:30 on Monday morning with the kids, and then working till 10 o'clock last night. It's a no. And it wasn't like I was trying to stay awake, or that I could not watch. There was a pounding in the chest, and that's like something that only you can do when I think probably an Irish sports person is on the biggest stage, on the world stage, doing something like that. And McIlroy has that, I think, for us in a way that I don't know. I think that's grown, I would say, over the last 4 years, I would say.
Because I feel there is a disconnect there that isn't there with Lowry or Harrington for geographical reasons, actually.
Yeah,
I think if he was Rory from Tullamore,
but I just think I kind of think it's past, has it?
Huh?
I've always preferred McIlroy. I mean, present company excluded. The thing with like the Lowry thing, it always doesn't it doesn't feel like you're dealing with someone of the same calibre. There's that thing where Lowry is almost more typically Irish in terms of a more typically Irish sports person, insofar as has achieved something remarkable in winning what he won, but is not of a calibre where you're like, this guy
great.
Is
he should win,
otherworldly. Whereas I just think maybe that feeds into it. I don't know, you could be right about the geographic thing as well. Maybe if it was,
I don't know particularly, it's hard to know.
Yeah, but I think you're right though in that they're very, like Harrington, got every last ounce out of his game and did like to win 3 majors, and to even do what he's still doing today is remarkable. And Lowry, I think, such like in some ways an overachiever, you would say, like whereas with Rory you have someone who is probably the best in the world, or at least can be, on a consistent basis in a way that who else do we have even in sport on that level? Katie Taylor. That's it.
Is the connection different maybe for golf fans versus, say, non-golf fans around Rory McIlroy? So to Arthur's exact point, I would say there's a lot of say partisan golf fans who would be big Harrington or Shane Lowry fans, and the everyman sense of things definitely helps when it comes to Lowry. Well, I would think a lot of golf fans would probably have a great fondness towards Rory McIlroy, due to where the ceiling is of his game, the consistency outside the majors of what he's played, the fact when he's in his full pomp, he's a wonderful player to watch. Because as part of me on Sunday, I think this is the first sporting event since the Super Bowl where I've stayed up beyond 3 a.m. to watch, was Sunday for the final round. So again, it takes something special to keep you up. It was very tempting to go to sleep at times. It seemed like Wyndham Clark was about to pull away. But there was part of me that's kind of thinking, even after McIlroy played the 14 badly, maybe there's just that moment of magic in the last few holes where finally something clicks. Maybe he sticks one of his approaches in, or he makes a putt, and you always kind of felt that he was capable of it, which kept me awake. And and I'm not a huge Rory McIlroy fan, I wanted him to get that monkey off the back and finally end this conversation, because next year it's going to be 10 years. Because I opened, I think, the Independent the next morning, and it actually on the website had the amount of days it's been since he's won a major. And they're going, can we just like drop that narrative?
Why aren't you a huge Rory McIlroy fan? I don't ask that.
I don't know, I just never really connected with him. It had nothing to do with, I think for a lot of people it was the Olympics and like him maybe not declaring to play for Ireland straight away when he played for Ireland as an amateur. I think that maybe put some people off. I never really cared about that, but I never really warmed to McIlroy necessarily as a character, but yet as a sportsman and as someone covering sport, I find him intriguing most of the time that he opens his mouth. I don't necessarily pull from, but I find him pretty interesting.
Do you think? Do you find him like a more sympathetic figure now, and that he's had this evolution from global superstar and almost like beyond us? He was citizen of the world and Planet Nike, as opposed to this little island, and he was just the golden child, and now. He's a very sympathetic figure for several reasons. He wouldn't like lots of them.
I would have been happier for him last weekend in LA than I would have been when he seemed to be on a run and destined to win 10 majors back in 2012.
I think a lot of people are feeling that.
That's a huge thing. That's what I was going to say. I think we can be, dismiss people's feelings as being nationalistic and all different things. There's loads of different reasons for it. Like, I mean, when the Caroline Wozniacki and post Caroline Wozniacki Rory McIlroy wasn't appealing to a lot of people. He seemed like he was in a celeb world that was beyond, Ireland or Irish golf or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It's nothing to do with nationality or anything like that. It's just like, he just didn't seem like... Now, I don't know if that was ever fair. I'm just saying that was the sort of feeling around it. Whereas I think the Rory McIlroy of the last 3 or 4 years, even before the live stuff, he just seems like he is a mature and nice, good guy. And I think it's coming across more and more all the time, and people see it. And people see it in that world of golf where you don't have to look too far for a not very nice guy.
Yes, I mean it was, and to be fair, as with golf commentary generally, because it goes on for so long, any observation is repeated 3,000 times across the week, but it was repeated ad nauseum that he had a more business-like, focused demeanour, and the interpretation of that was fairly obvious to everybody. He hates the guys over there in the live team, and now pretty much doesn't think much of the guys over there in the PGA Tour team, and he's going to start just operating for himself. And again, I quite liked seeing that from him as well.
But I agree with you from a sports point of view, that's fine, but I actually don't think he'd have it in him to just be like that now, and I think that's ultimately a good thing, even if it does cost him. What was the name of the guy in the PGA, the local, the tour, the non-tour professional, the club professional is the word I was looking for there?
Michael Block.
Yeah, Block, who was brilliant, and McIlroy was playing
people said they'd never forget his name.
Give us a month. You know what, if I was here for another hour I wouldn't remember it, but he was playing McIlroy, was it, on the Sunday, and he birdied the 18th or whatever he did, and Rory's reaction for him, and when he nearly got the hole in one, he did get the hole in one, didn't he? And Rory again was like the guy who was like front and centre. That's all real, you know what I mean? That's not put on. Rory gave him a reception on the 18th green that I don't think anybody else in the tour would have given him, and he's probably the biggest star on the tour. I think that comes across. You watch enough golf over time, it's hard not to like the guy. I think it's more that than nationality or anything.
No, I think you're right. I think most people recognise a very basic decency there.
Yeah,
when it comes to McIlroy.
But I don't remember Michael Block. Sorry about that.
You do now.
Let's take a very short break.
Or now.
We have more to get to. Manny Stephen Kenny emails in, as you might imagine. This is A Slight Tangent with Arthur O'Dea, Michael McCarthy and Will O'Callaghan.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. Stony silence during the ad break there between the four of us here in A Slight Tangent. This is where myself and Mick and Will and Arthur chat through stories of the week. So Stephen Kenny undoubtedly maybe the story of the week. By the way, Angus in touch to say, lads, I found the PDF from the DCU website. 270 pages. Is it 270 pages?
Yeah, probably there. Now there's...
Ooh,
yeah.
Read.
Academic pages, though, it's all double spaced, isn't it?
Double spaced or not?
It's the guts of 90,000 words.
All right.
Make of that what you will. Like, it's not completely unmanageable.
No, like a short novel is 50.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Probably about 10 pages of citations as well.
If you were legitimately interested in Bob Dylan, I can't see why you wouldn't be enjoying it.
I have no doubts.
It's yeah, but look,
start showing Dr. O'Dea a bit of respect in this damn room.
Has Bob Dylan ever read it? That's what I want to know.
I wouldn't say so.
What's the... I know, actually, sorry.
Why didn't you ask him this during the ad break?
It's a tangent too far. So, Stephen Kenny, a whole array of emails in, I guess. Everybody has strong opinion on the Irish football team, I think, more so than most sporting pursuits. For instance, Gary and Sligo, hi Joe and team, long time, first time. After Friday night's horror show in Athens, can you guys discuss, did the media talk affect the manager's selection with the group set up as it was? Most in the media, yourselves at OTB included, pegged Friday as must win. I personally think Stephen Kenny believed it too. Would it not have been more prudent to go to Athens for a point, back yourself to beat Greece at home, do the same against the Dutch, and see where you are in November. Again, seems to me Stephen Kenny was made believe he had to win Friday, while in reality, bettering Greece and matching Holland was the real trick that he missed. Somebody else texted in to say, I don't want to revel in it, but is a League of Ireland manager ever going to get another chance at the Ireland job after Kenny? I like him, but he was tactically outclassed by Gus Poyet. Then again, would we be happy with Gus Poyet as our manager? Probably not. What does that tell us? Says Carla Donegal. Yeah, I don't know. It does feel, I have to say, after Friday, like that was pretty much a fatal blow, and this is the beginning of the end, one way or another. And I take no joy in that, because whilst I was very disappointed with Friday, and I think, and we'll get into it with Dan and Gab more detail after 9, the formation to begin with was dicey, considering Greece are a possession-based side. Their formation, it was likely that they were going to dominate on the flanks. And then once that transpired, management didn't change anything until half-time. At that stage, Ireland were very lucky to be 1-1. Could have been 3-4-1. That doesn't bode well for the future. So, I was really disappointed with it. It's very, it's hard to make the case too strongly for Stephen Kenny after that international window. However, for me, that doesn't overly negate a whole bunch of things. I think he's carried himself with a dignity I've liked. Gav Cooney earlier on made the point it's nice to have someone whose dream job is the Ireland job, and he's really approached it that way. You'd have no doubt that he's working 24/7 on everything. I mean, they have a tip-off routine, for God's sake. And he's brought through a whole host of young players. The next man in will owe him a debt, because all of these young players now have 15, 20 caps. And and the football is so much better. I mean, it was despicably bad under O'Neill at times, and under McCarthy most recently, really bad. We would do all the matches at home. You'd be there at the Aviva Stadium. It was depressing. And Shane Duffy would eventually score the equaliser, but it was just awful, and it was going nowhere, really. And Stephen Kenny has imbued the thing with a bit of life, and they're trying to do things. And so if this is the end, I really hope it doesn't get silly. I hope he's not harangued out of office. I hope people show him a bit of respect. If it is, like I said, at the end, he deserves a massive round of applause at the end of it, because I like so much about what he did. And it's just a pity that final piece, the results, haven't matched so much about the tenure. That'll be my sense of where we are. Dr. O'D.
No, I kind of broadly agree with you. I don't think it can be. I think it's very kind to look at it that way at the same time, to kind of say it's unfortunate the results didn't happen. Ultimately, that's his main job, to make the results happen. So it's kind of, if everything isn't in service of that, I don't think he saw himself as a makeshift for someone else. I think he saw himself as he was the guy to achieve this. So I don't think he'll take much satisfaction. Maybe he will, but it's certainly not going to cover up anything for him in terms of whenever he does leave. Yeah. But I don't know, it's a pretty big pass, I think, just to kind of go.
Quite a significant minimisation on my part of, I think the results weren't good. But over to you, Arthur. No, it's a pretty big deal that the results weren't good. There was a long
building
really
phase, close, to be fair. Awful results. Some not tragically awful, some historically awful results.
Almost,
which I don't know if that needs to happen when you were doing what he was. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there has to be a payoff that you lose some of those games just because of your re-upping the team, which was necessary. No one's taken that away from him. It absolutely was necessary, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive necessarily.
The more we suffer, the higher we'll go.
It's a lot of character building going on.
You mentioned in the news round, Joe, that being 1-1 at half time at Greece is probably the first bit of results look that we've had under Kenny, and I think that was a fair point. But actually, you also said something there that piqued my interest when you said that under O'Neill and McCarthy we were going nowhere, and we were. I would subscribe to that more than anyone, I would say, right? But
Euro 2016 aside,
but I would also by the time it was ending, yes. But I would also argue, are we going anywhere now? Because these performances and this better football, I do agree that there's probably a more positive outlook and there's a belief in the players, but the problem is that isn't the end game. That's the starting point. You know what I mean? That's the caveman stuff is gone. We've moved on from it, but now we have to see a lot more. And it's not results. I mean, the Greek performance was the worst Ireland performance in years.
Yeah.
and okay, we played well against France and we were lucky not to get a draw, and that's fine, but how Ireland are going to get back to some sort of reasonable place in international football is by beating Greece and by beating tier 3 nations on a regular basis, and then hoping that we have these good performances against France and stuff like that. And for me, I feel like we're worse off now than we were 2 years ago. I feel like that our ability to qualify is completely and utterly gone unless we get lucky in a Nations League way, and relying on, I think it was a 25% chance of us qualifying, of us getting into these playoffs, and then even then it's a semi-final and final.
It's like a Rory McIlroy putt from 30 feet.
Exactly, now that might improve or whatever, but like our chance of qualifying out of groups is basically gone, and
2 games in,
and this has happened twice in a row now, like, so.
Do you feel kind of excited at all with Ferguson being thrown into that mix? I suppose where we were 2 years ago.
Yeah, but I was thinking about this with Evan Ferguson. I'm so excited about him, and then I'm also saddened by, I don't know how he's going to fulfil any kind of potential in the green jersey at the moment. Like, thinking about that last night, it was like, you can't do it on your own, especially as a forward player.
In Greece, like, it was such a contrast to the supply he gets at Brighton, where Evan Ferguson gets that chance to go in behind and where there's a good quality ball coming into him. He was lost not for his own fault at times in Athens because the ball just wasn't coming up to him.
Yeah. Look, I this isn't me saying, can you, or anything like that. I'm happy to leave it till the end of the campaign, and I ultimately don't think that the manager, like, I think we make way too much of it, and we talk about the manager and we talk about even about the senior team far too much, right? Because there's much bigger issues. Why don't we have the group of players? Why is it the worst group of players that we've ever seen, as Liam Brady said? And a lot of that, like, no change of manager is going to make any difference to that. But at the same time, if we are going to have that conversation, I think, as much as I completely agree, there should be respect and that there should be some note of the good things that's been done. I also kind of think, like, I don't know, I'm starting to think it's going nowhere. I felt like on Friday night, it was I would say, a dark night when you realise that all this talk of, but it's all going to come together, felt like nonsense. After about 10 minutes on Friday night, you're going, well, when is it going to come together? Because it's not getting any better.
No, there is that. His 33rd game in, 3.5 years in, the most pivotal match of his tenure. It was a hell of a time to have your worst performance.
Yeah, we didn't need to build that up, to go back to the listener's email. It wasn't down to the media saying everyone knew this was make or break. That's why the players who were not involved in the championship.
He's saying maybe it wasn't must win, should we gone for a draw. It's like make or break.
We actually should come back to that, because I think that's a weird mentality. Like, it's like the media does whatever. The manager, like, maybe he picked a 2 attacking side, but this idea of playing for a point or playing for a win, surely you just play the best matchup that you can to try and go out and play a match. Playing for a 0-0 draw would have been just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
It was just that he tactically got it completely arseways, and I think that was obvious, to see. And it doesn't matter whether that was a positive approach or a negative approach. We can get too hung up on that sort of stuff.
I think Stephen Kenny would admit himself he's probably been a bit too tactically inflexible in these games as well. So obviously against Gibraltar, you could see with the way they were setting up. If you watched the France game they played recently, they weren't going to carry that threat where you needed 3 central defenders on the pitch at the same time. Ireland needed someone to get in the ball further up in midfield, and you could sacrifice one of those players. I thought starting O'Dowda in Athens was the wrong choice. He should have played McLean there. And before the game, I think a lot of people felt that way. We weren't in Turkey though, or we weren't in Bristol, where they had this long training camp coming into it. But everyone knew that the 2 games against Greece were make or break. Greece are already in a position where they've got a Nations League playoff going into this. As poor as the Dutch have been, I still would fancy the Dutch to pick up enough results to be in the top 2, and France should win this group. So as a result, I don't think Ireland could really rely on, let's go try and play for a draw dourly in Athens and then hope to beat them at home. I think you have to go out to try and win both of those.
And so what's your sense of Kenny? Where is he?
I don't think he lasts beyond this campaign, because I think it was about qualifying for Euro 2024, whatever way that came about, whether it was through the group or whether it was through the playoffs. I think it's very unlikely they're going to get into a playoff situation. When I look at, particularly, I think Dan had it up recently, the teams that would need to not be in decent places for us to actually get in there is very, very low. And it's very hard, I think, for Stephen Kenny to argue at this point if he was to go in with his employers and say, give me another campaign. I know he says that he feels that he's the guy to bring the team forward to the next World Cup cycle as opposed to this Euros, but he's had a long period now, and as Nathan said on Friday night, it's felt like there's been so many false dawns. You look at the performances against teams like Belgium, Portugal, even the France game where Ireland played very, very well, and then you have to think Luxembourg, the game in Yerevan, the game in Athens, where there was a lot on the line and where Ireland had to deliver, and they haven't done so for the last few years. I never ascribed to the idea that Stephen Kenny should be given an unlimited amount of time. That seemed to come out a few times, this idea that, the football is so good, we're going to have things along the way and the Luxembourg result will happen. I think he knows, I think his entire coaching team would know that he's going to be judged over the course of a campaign, and the reality is, unless something remarkable happens from here, there's very little chance that Ireland will be converting this into qualification for the next tournament.
It's an insane group. I think it's only fair to say that, like the draw.
It is,
but it is though, Arthur. If you look at Greece's best fourth place team, we've got the best team, and the Dutch are probably they're not playing well. Well, we haven't played them yet, right? So we don't know what they're going to be like when we play them. But they're potentially the best second place team. Like, it was an insane group. But the problem is, Ireland would have to. If Ireland were going to qualify, they'd at least have to play. There's a good chance we finish fourth in this group.
I was surprised how good Greece are, by the way.
That's what I mean. Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. So even if we got a good draw, we'd still have to finish higher than a team of Greece's standard. If they were second seed, say, so it's if we finish fourth, the group argument doesn't stand up at all.
I don't think it. I think it's not right to call it an insane group. It's not like that. It's always going to look like that from Ireland's perspective, and even in times when they've been successful, the group has never looked favourable from the outside. So you're
not from Ireland's perspective. I'm talking about we're third seeds, and we got a really, really good first and fourth seed, and a second seed that are like, we'll see how we get on against them. They're not in form at the moment, but they're still Holland. Like,
well, my point remains that any time Ireland are going to like
Ukraine, I think, are the second team in England's group.
Yeah, okay, but still, my point is that any time we'll be successful, it will look that way from the outset, that there are going to be teams better than us, and we exceed expectations. Here, we're not even meeting expectations; we're below expectations. If you're going to have the seeding of that, like, do you know what I mean?
Well, that's my point. But like,
I don't think it's an insane. Like, it would have been like a credible third place finish here is not an insane ask from Stephen Kenny.
No,
and no one would really give out about that. So therefore, it can't be an insane group. No one's expecting to win it.
Qualification. Nobody's insane. But sorry, I was answering Will's point of like that it comes down to qualification for Euro 2024.
It doesn't.
One way or another.
That was always the tricky thing about this campaign, and that we'll judge him if he qualifies for the Euros, and then the group came out.
That wouldn't happen. If we'd lost twice. If you lost twice to France and say you could whatever results against the Netherlands and bet the rest of the group, nobody would be saying, "Oh, this is a disaster, Kenny out." They'd be mad to say that.
Yeah, well,
I still think the FA.
I think you're right the second one, but not right the first one.
Yeah.
People would be saying it.
Yeah, well,
the big problem is, though, where do the FAI go for the next manager?
I don't know. It's all too.
They can probably only attract a manager who is on a championship salary right now, if even that. You don't have private benefactors here anymore to bring in a Trapattoni or O'Neill and Keane.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what people are expecting when it comes to that.
No, I think people are realistic as well on that front.
Surely
42,000 people in the Aviva last night. I know you had to buy the Dutch tickets with it, but there's a chance people wouldn't turn up.
Well, exactly.
I think Kenny still has a lot of support.
Huge amount of support out there. Yeah. We haven't done the RTE corner in a long time.
Oh, who do I have to give out about now?
Well, it's more this will be more of a nostalgic, wistful, the good old days, as Liam Brady bet out.
Yeah.
Final nail in the coffin, you said.
Joe, get me in trouble with making things up here. I don't think we've even talked about this.
No.
I think it's I was sort of sad a little bit last night, I have to say. There just felt like the year is long over. Let's face it, but you still got elements of it with Liam. I suppose as much as anybody else, and we all need to just like get on with it and move on with the times and realise that the panels ain't what they were. But I did watch. Did one of you send it to me? I watched. I watched Wenger this morning.
Did someone put it in the group or something?
I might have been, yeah.
Oh, I watched it too this morning. Oh my
God. And do you know what? It was always there in the top 10. But I'd have Venables ahead of it. I'd have Rod Liddell ahead of it. Jeez, it jumped up this morning. It was brilliant.
It was in the can.
But it was actually Liam's part that was brilliant. Like the word he chose when he was giving out about it was an amazing word. Diabolical.
Oh yeah.
He said that was diabolical. Sort of to pick the John Cleese funny walks as their.
I forgot that rant at the moment where he goes, "You jumped over the fence, baby," at the end.
Oh
of it.
yeah,
know that
that's
was
the
from
famous
that.
line. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then he said, "We can do our analysis any way we want." He's like, "You're shooing them out of the way."
Yeah, so your idea last week about was just playing clips from Dumphy panels, I think.
Oh yeah,
I think we should just do it, yeah.
we're going to do a slight tangent where we play their best 10
For that.
Yeah, it might even be just another hour of the show where we do.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and analyse them afterwards.
Absolutely.
It's
Next week.
it's obviously cheap and cheerful radio, but it'll probably be the best thing we do all year.
Brady's retirement did lead to a wonderful quote I saw in the Indo this morning, though.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, quote, that Brady also admitted last Friday he didn't know much about Mikey Johnson was hardly as relevant despite the pressing angst of a select horde of pointy-headed nerds on social media, and yet their seemingly more urgent demands are deemed to hold more sway.
Who wrote that?
It was David Kelly in The Independent. I want to say Rod Little when you said that, but yeah, I thought that was kind of bizarre. Pointy-headed nerds who
I think he
expect.
he said more in Ireland. This is passing on. When he was talking to Gavin earlier, he was saying I think he said it more in Ireland or somewhere that he just doesn't love football anymore.
Oh, he said it on News at One.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite sad.
The sports washing, the money, the social media, the general noise around the modern game has left him fairly indifferent to it all. Which I can sort of
Can
see.
understand that, Liam.
Yeah.
Let's dig into Chelsea's finances next week on the show.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have a great problem with him saying I don't know loads about Mikey Johnson personally.
That's fine. He's done his time.
I don't really.
Oh no, people get so worked up about things like that, and they always have. They've done it with John for years, and it's like, but he still can see a game of football and tell us what's happening and give you that different perspective. Why do you always need your pundit to be exactly the same as the other pundit and have the most stats and figures and all? We have, I always don't understand why we don't want the kind of eclectic collection of people who see the games differently.
Yeah,
and
it's good to have both, but you would trade.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Chapter
both.
and verse on Mikey Johnson for a strong opinion afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Better TV, maybe.
Exactly. No doubt about that.
We are once again out of time. So my thanks to Will and Mick and Arthur. That was for the 5th time in a row a slight tangent. Can we match the dubs is the question next week. A slight tangent at offtheball.com is where you'll get us. Thanks, lads.